Hello YouTube, my name is Peter Garofalo, and today we're going to dampen the iris on this Canon FD 35mm lens. Really, we are actually going to learn together how to do it because this is the first time I'm going to attempt to dampen the iris on one of these lenses. I have right here the Canon 35mm lens, which I converted in a previous video. I'll link somewhere in this direction. And I also have some tools with me, as well as this super secret grease from Cine-modding lens. Hopefully you guys can read that. Yeah. This is not sure exactly what it is, but it's a grease kind of lubricant material that is specifically designed to work inside of aperture, inside of camera lenses, and specifically to dampen the iris. Looks like it could be some kind of Vaseline knockoff or something like that, but it is made by Cine-modding lens. I don't know what it is, but he assured me it is safe to put inside the lens. Anytime you're putting something inside the lens or modifying a lens, you want to make sure you have the right pieces. So I bought this thing from Cine-modding lens. I think it's pretty cheap. I'll link somewhere else in the description to his website where you can buy it if you wanted to dampen the iris yourself. Now, why would you want to dampen the iris? Well, this, as you can see, is a converted stills lens. So it used to be a 35mm FD, Canon FD lens for FD mount. I changed the mount already, and then I declicked the lens, and it actually is pretty smooth on its own, but there's some pieces rubbing against each other, and it's not as smooth as I would like it if I wanted to do iris pulls or something like that. This one's pretty good actually. I'll be modifying the rest of the set later, but say I want to make this a lot smoother, which I do, then I can use this grease, apply just a little bit in just the right places to really smooth out this iris ring, so that way if in the middle of a shot, if I'm shooting video, I want to go from a 2 and the sun comes out, and then I want to stop down to a 5.6, I can really dial in nice and smoothly. This will help me do that. And the reason you buy the right grease is for a lot of reasons, but the main thing you're looking for too when buying grease is really just buy the right stuff from the professionals, because you want to make sure that it's not going to leak into other places, it's not going to change consistency when it gets cold or hot, it's not going to, there's all these kind of differences that can happen with iris grease, dampening grease, so yeah, you want to make sure you have good stuff. Anyway, so I'm going to get started. I'm diving in and going to take off the Edmica mount. So these are, like I said, Canon FD lenses, stills lenses from the 80s, and these mounts are custom machine mounts by Edmica. They're available for sale, that you can do it yourself, or you can contact a company like Cine-modding lens or other some other third parties do it to convert your lenses for you. You can buy them pre-converted sometimes, but the best way to do it is if you have a set that you want to convert into Canon EF or other mounts, this guy does it for you, as well as some other manufacturers. So yeah, you can get them fully serviced and they'll take care of all this, but if you're like me and you like tinkering with things and taking things apart, then this is a great way to do it yourself. Anyway, so what I just did is I loosened the 3 screws that hold the Edmica mount in place. I took those off. I'm actually just going to keep the screws right in there just so I can have everything in one place. And then now I'm down to the aperture ring. So this right here on the inside, this is the Ed bushing is what it's called. That actually kind of adapts the iris ring to the actual mechanism inside that controls the aperture. These right here, they're called goalposts. Anyway, so that you can see it's sort of rubbing right here and there. So those are 3 spots I think I'm going to want to hit. The other thing that's happening, and I will show you guys once I take this off. Oh, the whole thing kind of comes out. The other thing that's happening is, I'm just going to take off the head bushing as well, is that this section right here is rubbing against the bottom section right there. So I'll probably want to apply some grease to these little sections that are rubbing against the bottom. And that's really it. I've talked to Ed Mika and Ron Sim, about, the CEO of cine-modding, about this, about how to do this, because I really don't know what I'm doing. But that's why I'm recording myself, just in case anything goes wrong. But yeah, I'm going to apply some grease to the sections that are rubbing, which are these little fins that stick out, the bottom plate right here maybe, and then the outside of the edge bushing. And that's about it. And I don't want to apply a lot. I've heard, you know, you just want a tiny little dab, just enough to really cover the surface with thin layer. You don't want it overkill, because then it might, you know, lump over, or it might spill over into other places in the lens. Now Ed said, oh yeah, sometimes I just use a toothpick to apply it. Ron Sim said to use a very fine point brush. Since I kind of figured, well, seems like there's no real one way to do it, and you just really want to get a tiny bit on there. I'm just using this little screwdriver that I have, actually. I mean, we'll find out how well it works. So I'm going to put this out of the shot for now. And just taking a little dab like this. See if you guys can see that on the camera. Little dab, and then I'm going to apply it to here. So let's see. There's already some grease on this lens. Now it looks like Canon did that in the factory when it came out. So I'm going to kind of combine, at least on this section there's some grease on it, or someone else kind of modified it. That wasn't me, but yeah. I'm just going to cover this up. Now I'm also going to apply it to the outer section right here, these little things that stick out, because I have a feeling that that's going to rub as well. Okay, so now I've covered the bottom side of the ring and some of the inside areas with lens grease. And now what I'm going to do is flip this thing over, and I'm going to cover up these areas that I see touching on the ring. Now this might be overkill, the fact doing, you know, it's almost like buttering two sides of a sandwich, buttering the bottom side and the other side is catching, but since I'm doing such a thin layer, just kind of tiny, very lightly coating it, I figured it's okay, and that way I think, you know, I sort of cover myself. But you know, maybe we'll find out. Maybe at the end of this video I'll say don't do that. That's why I'm starting with the cheapest lens in my set. This is the Canon 35 F2, which was like 150 bucks. So if I royally fuck this thing up, we're all good. So I'm just covering up these three areas that touch on the bottom, and just lightly coating them again. Then I'm just going to do a tiny little strip around the side. I was advised by Ron not to do that, or that really didn't matter, it was kind of overkill, but I'm going to do it and just see what happens. Okay, so I've pretty fully covered a little rim around the side that sandwiches to the other side of that. And starting to get the edges. One other thing that you want to look out for too is this like little metal piece. Now the jury's kind of out on whether or not you take this out or whether you keep it in. It does add a little bit of resistance. There's a spring in there. Actually, it's a little bit out of place now. That actually pushes against the piece of it. So a lot of people leave it in. I'm going to take it out, and I'm going to add a tiny drop of super glue to this button right here to just keep the button there, but actually remove the spring part of it. So yeah, so I'm going to take this little piece out, and I'm taking a little pin out as well that goes into it. So there is the piece now, and I'm just going to add just the tiniest little drop of glue in there. And this little piece kind of slides in and out of this like track, so I'm just going to add a tiny little piece in the track. So now, I'm going to lay over some grease on top of this whole section. Okay, I feel like that's plenty. I actually feel like I added a little bit too much. I'm going to scrape some away. Great. So now this piece is ready to go back on. Great. Oh my god, that feels so smooth. I'm just kind of wiggling it out, making sure that it's all good, that everything's sliding nicely. Yeah, I can see there's a couple points where I definitely did some overkill. I didn't need to grease. I can like observe with my naked eye places that are they're just grease sitting there for no reason. It doesn't seem like a problem at the moment. It seems like it's not going to go anywhere, it's not going to get in my way or anything like that. But you know, good to know for future reference. Okay, so that feels great already. The other thing that I think, specifically with these Admica mounts, this is more Canon FD centric than just general iris dampening centric, is the outer ring of this mount ends up kind of just rubbing against the little pieces right here and there and there. There's a little track. It's not too bad, but you know, if we can make our lives a little smoother, let's do it. So I'm going to go around with a little bit of grease. So while finishing up this piece, I think yeah, maybe a brush would be a little better. This tool is a little annoying. I don't know how Admica does it with a toothpick. I feel like I would want just a little more control, a little bigger, wider area. But this is actually working out just okay. I mean, you really just need something to get it on there. I'm not greasing that notch because there's no point really. That notch is meant to sit in, and the whole point is I mean, it's not really friction, but the whole point is for it to not go anywhere. It's supposed to stay on the ring so that we can actually control the aperture from the outer ring. So I'm not doing that, but I'm doing everything right up to that because the notch does sit next to something that it touches. Okay, I'm feeling pretty good about this. Okay, I feel pretty good about this. Let's see if you guys can get a good look on the second camera. And now I'm going to throw it back in. So the notch goes down, it sits on this little tab right here. The other side goes in between the goalposts. I don't really want to grab it from the outside anymore, which is making it a little bit more difficult. Yeah, it's slippery. Just need it to slide right in there. Bam. Okay. Line everything up. Wipe my hands off. It looks pretty good. It doesn't look like it's spilling anywhere it's not supposed to. And wow, I can already feel as I'm applying this thing that it's going to be so much smoother. I did get a little grease on the top side of it, but it shouldn't go anywhere. It's not going to get in the glass in any way. I think we're fine. So now just doing it. That is buttery smooth, and not only is it smooth, but it offers that resistance, and it's an even resistance across the entire thing. So you don't have, you know, between 5 and 5/6 there's a little bump or something like that. It's just totally smooth resistance that you get the whole way. So I can really dial in just a little tiny change if I wanted to. Great, so I feel awesome about this. I'm going to go ahead and put this back together, but you know, I'm really glad I did this. I think, you know, if you if you're not the type that really gets enjoyment out of doing things themselves and really wants to take all the care in the world to do everything yourself, then these services are easy enough and cheap enough to just send it in, have the pros do it. You'll be very happy with the results. But I feel great about this. Let me just make sure. Oh, I did it the wrong way. There we go. Line it up. Cinching it on. And I am very proud to say that as I screw in the final screw, putting literally the finishing touches on this lens, that after I bought the lens, then I changed the mount, then I got the follow focus gears, then I got the front ring, now I'm going back and greasing it. I've opened up this lens, and modified it 5 times at this point. Really, you can do it all in one shot, but I'm glad to say that this lens is now fully cine-vised. Shit. One thing, here's an amendum. Actually, I'm not going to take out this little piece. I am going to put it back in because as you rotate this, where can you guys see? That is the aperture all the way open. And as you close it down, it goes past f22 and flips into the auto mode and opens back up again. Now that's something I really don't want to happen, so I'm going to open it back up and take whatever kind of loss of smoothness I get. And this is why we learn. Luckily I applied just the tiniest little bit of glue to that section, so I should be able to pop it out fairly easily. So, had to cut because I actually took a lot of force. I actually managed to get the piece unstuck and reinstall this little mechanism to block the aperture from going into the auto mode. But good to know. Don't ever super glue this little thing down unless you really don't care about it slipping into aperture mode, because it will be very hard to get out after you do it. Anyway, so now that I've messed around with it, I'm going to reapply grease to the places that I've kind of scuffed up at the moment. And then I'm also going to apply it, now that the metal piece is back in, I'm going to apply it to that aperture control piece, or the auto aperture block, since it will be rubbing against the rest of the pieces. Now, one part that's particularly going to rub and offer a lot of resistance because there's a spring in there is this point right here. Ends up going, let's see, on here and rubbing against this inner part right there. Now I don't know if I'll be able to bring down the resistance because it's just a small piece, but definitely going to highlight that section now. Okay, so that's that. Let's put it back on, put it back together. now that the piece is engaged, I'll actually need to use the button to click it back in. There we go, it's seated there. And lastly, I'll need to reinstall the edge bushing. Still much smoother than originally. I do kind of feel a little bit of the resistance from that spring now that it's back, but still it's very nice. Okay, then I'm going to reinstall the back. So, as I said before, and I'll hopefully never say again, the FD-35 f2 lens is finally 100% complete. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching. I'm really glad that you guys could be here with me as I realized what I did horribly wrong, probably. Anyway, I was glad I was able to recover, but good to know, yeah, don't end up gluing that piece together. You're just going to have to live with the resistance caused by the spring rubbing against the inside. But otherwise, yeah, this grease worked great from cine-mod lens. The mount, as always, works great. And the edge bushing inside that controls the aperture. And I'm really excited to use this thing. Alright, well thanks so much for watching, guys. Keep an eye out for some more FD conversion videos. Ooh. Alright, talk to you guys later.